Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to my guide covering low altitude flying. Now, like my last guide covering low altitude takeoffs, there is no guide explaining step by step how to do this. You just have to plain and simply practice. This guide will cover a few tips and things you can do to learn it faster and be better at it once you do learn it. So, first things first is maintaining a high speed while flying low. You want to hold down shift your entire time and then use your mouse and W to keep your helicopter angled somewhat forwards. And that allows you to maintain relatively low altitude and maintain a high speed. As you can see here, I go in third person. You can see I'm flying with the helicopter angled forwards and I'm holding shift down the entire time. So if you do start to gain altitude and you're not angling forwards, just hold W a few times. Angle it a little bit steeper than you normally would, and then level out again. If you're angled sideways like this, hold E and Q. Like right now I'm angled with the pilot side pointed towards the ground, so I hold Q, rotating the helicopter left, and this kind of levels out the helicopter, making it easier to stay stable while flying sideways. If I'm angled with the pilot's side facing upwards, then I hold E, allows me to keep the helicopter more stable, and get used to flying in first person too, because low altitude flying is easiest in first person. You can do it in third person, and some people prefer to do it that way, but in my opinion it is much easier to learn to fly in first person and actually fly in first person once you get used to it. So definitely get used to flying like that, and after a while you will adjust to the helicopter. You get used to knowing things like where your rotor blade is and your landing gear and stuff like that, so you can be in first person and tell whether or not you're going to hit something, which is extremely useful. Another thing is fly under power lines. Once you get used to just dodging your general objects, start flying under power lines, because once you get used to flying under power lines, it gets really easy. That's how I practice. I just kept going back and forth under power lines over and over and over. Until I got used to it. I mean, it gives you an obstacle that's consistent in height. You just have to get used to going underneath of it, and then, like you can see, I'm doing the bigger power lines, but once you get used to these, you can go to the smaller ones, and then from there, you can get used to doing things like flying through hangars, which that's much later. That's a lot more advanced, but if you can fly through a hangar, I mean, you really don't need to go any further. Everything else you'll just learn naturally from flying. Another thing is, once you get used to low altitude flying, practice maneuvers like barrel rolls and things like that, because it helps you get used to controlling the helicopter at low altitudes and dodging stuff and being aware of your surroundings. And it's also just handy to know those types of maneuvers. If you're in a combat situation, you need to start dodging. In fact, I used to use the barrel roll to dodge missiles. In fact, I still do that. I still use barrel rolls sometimes to dodge AA missiles, but I've found more efficient methods, mainly flying extremely low and like weaving in between trees, things like that. That's a good way to dodge missiles. But overall, it's very simple. Just get used to dodging items, get used to flying under power lines and things like that. And it's just practice. Spawn a helicopter in the editor and practice. That's all there is to it. In the next guide, I'll be covering advanced landings, which is a great topic to know because you combine that with low altitude takeoffs, low altitude flying, and then you got your advanced landings, and you're basically set as far as piloting. Being able to land quickly is wonderful. I'll demonstrate landing here real quick. Just go ahead and land, and there you go. And it's from full speed to landed way quicker than you would in any normal landing. So that's basically it for this guide. The next guide, like I said, I will be covering advanced landings, and then from there I'm going to be covering jets. I'm going to go more into flying jets, landing jets, that type of stuff. But I hope you guys found this helpful, and I'll see you guys in the next guide.